Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. Today we have a nice double header in this Warbond shop for March. Basically what we're seeing is a new Warbond box, or a new battle trophy box, and also some ships available for the Warbonds, which is always nice to see. Overall, when we look at this Warbond shop, there is a lot of premium vehicles that are available, which have been available before, but with the new box, I think that's just a nice addition. Here's also the decal that you can get. As you can see, it's pretty nice. And overall, it's the Avenging Angel pinup, number 432 Squadron of the RCAF 1945. So, of course, the Royal Canadian Air Force is down to make its appearance. The interesting ones for me are the IIR-81C and also the Mk.II, and the addition of the 165 footer is also nice to see, the good old car me. So let's get into the game, let's have a look at these vehicles, and let's also have a look at the new box and give some comments on that, see what's going on in the wonderful world of War Thunder this month. So if we go to the Warbond shop, if you don't know how the Warbond shop works, there is a part of the article at the bottom of the post that you can see that will tell you how Warbonds works. Basically, it's a monthly system where players are able to get access to premium stuff in War Thunder without actually having to buy it, you know. So you can actually get access to premiums, you can actually get access to, you know, decorations and things like that, and also boosters and things for pretty much free of charge, which is something that, you know, we should be looking at. So let's talk about the first thing, which is the Battle Trophy Vehicle 2. This is the new box that is on offer. It is a mixture of some of the old stuff that we've seen before, but it is kind of a nice overall mixture, especially with the Lag-334 in it. So what we have is the M3 Medium, the CR32 BIS, the P26A34. We've also got the Boston Mk.I, the HU112B2U2, and also the Lag-334. So let's go through each of these vehicles. The M3 Medium is a Soviet M3 Lee. It's as simple as that. There is nothing really different about it, apart from the fact that it's in the Soviet tech tree. By rank 1 battle rating 2.7, you'll find it. It's overall a pretty nice vehicle, and also a good show of how the multi-armament setup can work in War Thunder. Its armor isn't exactly great, but its 37mm can do a ton of damage, and also its 75mm can as well. Overall, it's a nice little vehicle at 2.7. You can run it with stuff like the T126 and the T50, and do well with it and have some fun. The next vehicle is the CR32 BIS, rank 1 1.7 premium. This is just one of those vehicles which seems to be available with pretty much everything. I wouldn't say it is that interesting, apart from the fact it's one of those biplanes which has two 12.7mm Breda Safats, which is nothing to sniff at. The Breda Safats are incredibly powerful in this game, especially at lower tiers. This thing can absolutely annihilate any biplane that it comes up against, but it does suffer a little bit in maneuverability when we compare it to some of the nations. The P26A34, it's a very, very simple plane. It's in the American tech tree, but as you can see, it has an interesting flag behind it. So even though this is in the American tech tree, it is a rare premium that is on offer. There isn't much to it apart from it's just a normal P26 with two 7.62s. This one, if you're talking about like competitively, it's not really going to do anything, but it is a nice little collector's item to have. The next vehicle is the Boston Mk.I, and the Boston Mk.I is, as you can see, very similar to the A20. The difference between this and the A20 is the engines that it has access to, and also the armament. So this has a British armament on it. It has two Vickers turrets in the back, one in the bottom, one in the top, and in the front it has four 77mm Browning machine guns, plus the bomb loads, which are four 500-pounders. This is one of the nicest aircraft to fly in the game when it comes to just being able to go around and do what you want, because it's one of those aircraft which is at a lower BR, and at a lower BR this thing is incredibly fast. You can pretty much just run around and do what you feel like, you know, go after ground targets, go after air targets, and just enjoy yourself, and understand that you can always leave the battlefield, you know, because of your speed. And there aren't many planes apart from the CW21 that can catch you, and even the CW21 doesn't have a lot of armor on it, so the 77mm can do wonders against it. The 112B2U2 we've talked about in the past. This is of course the German vehicle, and as you can see it does have the Romanian flag, I believe it is, and the B2U2 is another one of those planes which is pretty fun because of its armament. It's got good maneuverability, but it lacks in the speed department at 2.3. It is kind of insane thinking about this shares a very similar BR to the HE100 and the CW21. In my opinion, this should be 1.7 instead, just because it isn't that fast. Overall, I like the vehicle though, just because it offers, you know, just a stable platform to try and fly around in. It's a really nice starter vehicle if you are new to a tech tree, but I don't think it's great if you're doing these Warbond stuff. And the creme de la creme, the Lag-334. So the Lag-334 is a Lag-3 with a 37mm in the nose. It's also a 2.3, so this is one of those vehicles which, with the 37mm, is incredibly useful in ground forces, because the 37 gets access to APT, it pens up to 60mm, and at 2.3, that's going to go through pretty much anything. Imagine a Yak-9T, but at 2.3, with a slightly worse engine, and that's pretty much what you get with the Lag-334. So this is easily the best case to get out of this box. I would actually go Lag-3, Boston, then the M3, then the HE112, and then these two are kind of last. They are interesting vehicles to have, but they're not going to be that useful. So overall, a nice box, in my opinion. Would be nice to see a naval vehicle added to this in the future, and I'm sure it will be at some point, but unfortunately right now, it's, you know, doesn't. So let's go through the other aspects of the Warbond shop that have changed this month. Looking at the test drives, they've actually added a helicopter into the test drives, which is good. You know, we have the HMS Belfast, the Ki-84 Co for the Chinese, I believe it is. Yes, that is the Chinese Ki-84 Co. The Mi-24P HFS 80. Then we have the BF-109G2, the Ki-87, and the M26T99. So there's a lot of stuff on offer here which is different to the norm, which is good. You know, it's the idea of these boxes should give you, you know, different experiences. So the HMS Belfast will give you a taste of what top tier naval is like. Then you have the Ki-84 Co, which will give you a pretty, well, a very good energy fighter which turns really well at high speeds. It's also, you know, going to match up a lot against the Japanese. The Ki-84 matches really well up against itself. It's a really fun, skilled matchup, so hopefully people are able to play it. Then you have the Mi-24 HF S80. If you're a person who, you know, doesn't have access to helicopters or doesn't have access to high-tier helicopters, this machine has access to air-to-air missiles, R60Ms, very, very powerful air-to-air missiles. It also has access to Sturms, so it can be pretty fun. You know, it has access to pretty much anything, and you can use it to grind out your helicopter stuff. Has a really nice RP booster on it. You can see 642% RP overall, and yeah, just give it a go. It's in the German tech tree, so you can get yourself that nice Eurocopter Tiger. BF-109G2, this is of course the Italian BF-109. Nothing really different between this and the one that you find in the German tech tree. Well, apart from the fact that, you know, it's not the Trop, it's just the normal one, but it doesn't really perform any different. It's basically the same. So yeah, there's no real interest in this one, apart from if you want to grind out some SL and also grind out a lot of RP, since the Italians are incredibly strong around 4.3. The next one, the Ki-87, this is probably the weakest out of them. The Ki-87 is an aircraft which really depends on its team. It's very, very fast because it's got a really nice engine in it, but it's also really, really heavy. So it takes a while to get up to speed. It takes a while to get up to altitude, but once it's up there, it can do incredibly well. The problem is getting up there, and if your team falls apart in the first 5 to 10 minutes of a battle, your Ki-87 is not getting up there. It's as simple as that. So you do have to rely on your team a little bit with this plane, where the other stuff that we've mentioned, it is very much a solo carry machines. So 30mm, 20mm, it has enough firepower. Getting guns on target can be kind of annoying, but generally it's not too bad. It's just, as I said, the initial setup is annoying in that. The M26T99, this is probably the funnest out of the vehicles. Just take an M26 and just put a bunch of M8 rockets on it. The M8 rockets pen 29mm. You can just fling them at targets, and with the meta around these, you know, middling BRs, a lot of lighter vehicles have been added. You know, the Italian armored cars, a bunch of other stuff such as AAs, so you can use those M8 rockets to pretty much spam out, you know, a bunch of those very light vehicles, and they just nuke them. So I would definitely say the M26T99 is a nice little pickup if you want to, you know, have a bit of fun with the rockets, and it fits well into the 6.3 lineup with the Bulldog and the other M26, so why not, you know, give it a go, have a bit of fun if you have all of these other ones. So let's have a look at the other stuff. As we talked about before, we have the Avenging Angel, and obviously none of these have changed. All of these have stayed the same. As I've said many times, it would be nice to see some new profile icons at some point. I'm sure we will at some points, but not yet. Generally, the one that I buy is this one, just the boosters. The reason why it's nice to buy the boosters, first of all, you don't need many levels, you just need rank 2, and then you just need you don't even need a special task. And also, these boosters stay around, so no matter which ones you actually get, you can see that I have many which I've just picked up over time because of the fact that, you know, I've been able to get them through that. So let's have a look at the vehicles. The first one is the 165 footer, the PC466 Kami. Now, the Kami, let's just see, is it actually different from the Pz.III one? Because this is the 165 footer in the Pz.III. So it has one 3-inch, two 20s, and dual 20mm. So yeah, the Kami has two 3-inches and two 20mm. So you're getting a little bit more firepower when it comes to its main armament, and a little bit less when it comes to its overall armament. That is the wrong thing. Let's just get the right thing up. So it's pretty much, do you think with the Kami you're able to do as much damage as possible with these 3-inch guns? Now, I don't think 3 inches actually hull break stuff, just because of the fact that they are not over 100mm. 3 inches are 76mm, so no, they don't. So you're going to have to do you're going to have to kill vehicles with the old-fashioned way, actually taking out all of the crew, or nuking them, or, you know, setting off ammo racks, and that's okay. It also means a slight change in playstyle, not going straight forward towards machines, going on a slight angle, so you can get both guns firing at the same time. But if you're looking at a starter premium, I suppose, for the Americans, this isn't a terrible one. I would always say the Thunderbolt is a better machine to have, just because you can run it with the 3.0565 and also the 59, and create this really fun lineup around it. And then you can always throw in the Higgins or the Elko if you want to, but this one, to me, is perfect for grinding through the American Pz.III, just because it's rank 2, so it's good for rank 3, 2, and 1. This one is only going to be useful for rank 2 and rank 1, but if you want a little bit of a boost towards getting these Elkos and these Higgins, which are incredibly fun machines, then I'd say go for it, you know. Why not? Give it a go, and get the Kami and have a bit of fun with it. I think it's not a terrible pickup. It's definitely not the best out of the list, but it's alright. The next one is the Landship, the T-35. Now, of course, this is the monstrosity that it is, with the 176mm and the 245s. Has a bunch of 7.62s around it, and also a crew of 10, which all, as you can see, are in the center. The T-35 at 1.3 can be incredibly oppressive to many machines, and can be a sight to see on the battlefield, especially if you get 3 or 4 of them rocking about the place. The main thing with the T-35, though, is the fact that it's really expensive when it comes to GE. You know, it's a rank 1 1.3 vehicle, it's not very good at researching, it's not very good at really doing anything, so having it at such a high GE cost, you don't really see too many on the battlefield. but, you know, the fact that they offer it in the Warbond shop a lot pretty much means that you have a situation where you can get it for, you know, free technically, as long as you put in the work over the month. And I would say it's not a terrible vehicle to get for free. It's not going to really be useful when it comes to research and stuff, but if you as an individual just want to kind of relax after maybe a few high-tier games where it hasn't gone too well for you, or maybe, you know, some mid-tier games, or maybe you just want to chill with, you know, some people that you know, or some people that you've met, and you just want to play some low-tier stuff, the T-35 is pretty fun. So it's definitely a relaxed vehicle, not a vehicle to grind with. The opposite is the Mk.II. The Mk.II is an incredibly good vehicle to grind with. It's a rank 3 for the for the Japanese, and what you find on it is, first of all, a very nice gun. You don't get a ton of armor on it, but, you know, you don't need it because you'll always be shooting first, and you also have some really nice gun characteristics. So 10 degrees worth of gun depression. The reload rate's a little bit long, but that can be reduced very much with the weapon reloading skill on your loader. Also, the turret rotation is okay, the speed of the chassis is okay. The only really downside this thing has is when you stop and set up to fire, sometimes the gun itself will not lay properly. It will take a while to be able to get onto the target, so you have to make sure that sometimes you're pre-aimed, or you just get used to how the gun sways, and then you'll be able to deal with it. But the Mk.II has a ton of penetration on its rounds. It has a ton of damage on its rounds as well, so it's one of those vehicles where it is able to just be up-tiered to even around about 4.7 and still be useful. You know, it can still penetrate the majority of 5.3 vehicles, it can still, you know, go through pretty much anything that it feels like, and because of recent BR changes for the Japanese, it's kind of hard to build a lineup around it. So if you have a look at the army, you can see the Mk.II is here, and you can run it as a 3.7 with 233s, the NATO and the Chaffee, or the Mk.II you can throw in there, or you can up-tier it to 4.7 with the Cheeto and the Cheeto Late. Now, put it like this, the Mk.II has exactly the same gun as the Cheeto and the Cheeto Late. So, and the Mk.II, the reason you take it is pretty much because of the gun. So the gun is good enough to be fully up-tiered. The only thing that you struggle with when it comes to Mk.II, as I said, is that gun laying. And that can be overcome by, you know, learning how it all works. So this thing you can run with the 4.7 lineup and still be incredibly successful with it, with the Cheeto and the Cheeto Late. Or you can run it as the front vehicle for a 3.7 lineup, which you run either these two, or the Chaffee, or the Mk.II with. So it's unfortunate that you can't, you know, you can't bring along more 3.7s, but you can still fill it full of 3.3s, and I definitely think the Mk.II is good enough for a vehicle to be able to run it just as an individual vehicle with a bunch of stuff which is slightly lackluster. It's an incredibly good vehicle for its BR. The IR81C is a rank 2 2.7 that you find in the Italian tree. It's also on offer a lot in the Warbond shop every so often, and, you know, it's a pretty cool machine. It's energy fighter. It takes a while to get up to speed and up to altitude, which is a problem, and sometimes the games are already gone, you know, by the time you have got up there. But if the game is in a stable position, or even if you're in a losing position, as long as the IR81C gets altitude, you are able to clean up the match. The IR81C is an incredibly good plane from altitude to be able to dive on people, to be able to do damage to them, to be able to annihilate them with its 220mm. Of course, there are MG151s, which are always fun. And the other thing is you can easily mop up 5 kills with this thing just because of the amount of ammunition that it has, and also once it gets that altitude, once it gets that energy advantage, it's very hard to take it off it at 2.7. There are not many machines that can compete as well as the IR81C if the IR81C has the altitude advantage. The only ones which I'll be comfortable in doing so is in the Spitfire, and even in the Spitfire you are just defensively flying over and over and over again because there is no way that you can can catch up with the energy advantage that it has. So the only problem with the II-81C is that initial setup. It's the initial 5 to 10 minutes that you're going to have to take to set up the aircraft, where your allies will be engaging and stuff. So you just got to be careful about that. You just got to make sure that you can, get through that, and your team can get through that pretty much unscathed, and then with a little bit of patience you can come out on top. It also has access to secondary weapons, which they added after adding the vehicle. This means that it does have a use in ground forces if you want to bring it along, and 2.7 for the Italians. Let's see. For 2.7 for the Italians, you do not really have a lineup, apart from the 75-34 M42, which you don't want to build a lineup around, so unfortunately that's not great. You can up-tier it though. It's not going to be a great air superiority fighter. There are much better options, but if you want it as a premium to get some SL, can't really blame you. Pz.III once again makes a return, the good old short stub wub, and this is probably one of the weakest out of it, just because of its 75mm. 75mm has a really good reload rate. It also has really good gun depression, but the machine itself hardly has any armor at 3.0, and also the actual gun itself, if you penetrate with something like the AP, it does a decent amount of damage. It only has 50mm worth of armor. Sorry, armor penetration. So you're going to be running heat. Heat doesn't do enough damage. It's not a very good vehicle. Because of that, it's as simple as that. So there are much better vehicles around this BR, the Panzer IV-F2, Panzer IV-G, Panzer IV-H, all of those ones, plus the long-barreled 50mm Pz.IIIs. I would always take over this thing. This is unfortunately kind of a relic of a bygone era. I would say it's a no from me. The Yak-3 is the French Yak, and the Yak-3 overall is a really nice plane. The French tree struggles in a lot of areas when it comes to its fighter line from rank 1, 2, and 3, so sometimes it's nice to see a friendly plane which you know is going to have a performance which is average or above average in order to get you through a lot of those aircraft. The MS-406, the MS-410, the Dewatneys, all of those are just not great at their BR. And that's why they've seen a lot of BR shuffling over the years. And the Yak-3 is just one of those staples at 4.0 with its Shavak, with its 12.7, which can get you through those. And since it's rank 3, it means it's useful all the way up to rank 4. So you can research all of this, research all of this, and all of this, and also all of that if you feel like it. But the French tech tree, it does have some really nice vehicles, at the rank 4. The VBs are fun to fly, the Pz.IIIs get great, the F4U7 is really fun to use, the Hellcats I suppose are okay, but there is just a lot of tosh here. The only standout vehicle out of these is the VG-33C, and maybe the H-75s as well are pretty good, but you got the 405, the 406, the 410, the 520, the 157, all of these are just not very good. So in order to have a vehicle alongside them, which you can use to grind through them so you don't have to play them, is kind of nice. And as the Yak-3 is a very good vehicle. The only place it really suffers is at high altitude. If you engage at mid altitudes and then force the enemy down, you will have an amazing plane to be able to finish off targets. It's really fun to fly, highly recommend it. The Boomerang. The Boomerang is another one of these vehicles of a bygone era. It isn't too good anymore in aerialistic just because it doesn't have the engine power to keep it up. Let's just put it like this. New vehicles were added to the game at 1.7, which have more engine power and more maneuverability than the Boomerang. This thing's at 3.0. That puts it into perspective. But it is a fun little vehicle to have. It's a fun little vehicle to fly out every once in a while, and with its 220mm Hispano Mk.IIs, it's pretty nice, And also, if you aren't able to kill anything with the Hispano Mk.IIs, you have 4,000 rounds worth of Browning machine gun to be able to take out targets as you go. So overall, it's not a very good aircraft because it doesn't have the power in the engine. You're going to be defensively flying an absolutely metric ton against stuff like BF-109s, and eventually you may get lucky and get on the side of them or get behind them, but then capitalizing, at least you have the 20s to do so, but it's just going to be hard to do. It's also got no secondary weapons, so it's pretty much limited to the air superiority role. I suppose in ground forces it wouldn't be too bad for that, but I would still want to take a plane with some ordnance just because I can be more useful around the place. So that's the premium vehicles that are on offer in this month's Warbond shop. You also have, as I talked about, the box, which is really nice to see. So if I need to rank these, or if I would rank these, I think I'd go 1 is the Mk.II, just because of its power and its gun. Then I would go Yak-3, IR-81C, the Car-Me, T-35, the Boomerang, and then unfortunately in last place, the Pz.III. It's an unfortunate life for it, but it is a true life, so yeah, it's kind of as simple as that. Anyway, I hope you all have a wonderful day, and have fun doing the Warbond shop this month. It's a pretty nice one. Make sure to give it a go, even if you just want to get that battle trophy box. I'll see you next time. I just want to thank Ambrosius McClellan, B. Young, Blackie, Chris Giltnane, Daniel Stanton, Jay Wilt, John Ryman, Martinez, Super Cacti, Trigger Hippie, Eugens Terry, and also Elove Goat and Samuel Slick for supporting the channel.